So what is it about business that makes a good business and profitable, or a bad business and bankrupt? Well, you'll find out here on Biz Gorilla. This is the Personal MBA Part 1, Tactical Review. So the one big idea from this book, the Personal MBA Part 1, first 5 chapters go over everything in terms of business and Business 101. And so this whole section is about business and the basics. And the big idea is that there are a critical few activities and concepts and ideas that truly drive a business. And that if you understand those critical few, you're going to get that 80-20 rule. You're going to have better business. So chapter 1 talks about value creation, and Josh talks in here about, there's 5 elements to a really good business. And what do they do? Well, number 1, you have to create value. Number 2, you have to attract customers through marketing. You have to convert sales, right? Actually get them to pay you. That's sales. Then you have to actually, number 4, deliver on your promises. And number 5, you have to figure out if this whole activity was even worth it, which is finance. And so if you really think about a business, it's just one of those 5 things. And in here he talks about economically viable skills, right? When you think about what are things that I can possess to make a lot of money in this world, think about those 5. Do you have skill sets that drive those 5, right? Can you create new products? Can you attract new customers and get a message out, marketing? Can you deliver sales, right? Can you deliver the bottom line? Can you, whether through logistics like Amazon, or can you deliver value in different channels, right? And then finally, do you understand about finance and accounting, right? To make sure that a company is actually getting the most net profit. So in terms of creating value, I love how Josh in this book talks about the mercenary and the crusader, and you need to be in the middle. Okay, so he says the mercenary, the problem with that is that if it's always for profit, if it's always about money, you're never really gonna be happy. Okay, think about people on Wall Street. Think about people who, professional athletes talk about it all the time. When it solely becomes about the money, they lose a lot of interest, okay? And it stops being fun. And I agree with that, right? Consultants have this all the time with burnout. If it's always about the money, there's no enjoyment, there's no passion. You're gonna really lose a lot of the heart of what it means to be working. But the same is true for crusaders. And he talks about, don't necessarily be on like the Peace Corps type of, oh, I'm only doing it because I love to do it. That's great, but this is a business, right? Like, we also have to do this to make money. So on one end, it can't be a mercenary where you're spending all your time, all day for money, but by the same token, you don't want to just be a crusader out there. You do need to make a little bit of money through this. Next, Josh talks about how at the end of the day, in terms of value creation, it's about the market. The market's going to dictate to you what is valuable, what is not. So whatever's in your own head in terms of this is something that I really like, it's a good place to start, but then you test it and you throw it out to the market. Whatever they throw back at you, you need to accept it. And usually, especially for younger entrepreneurs and people who are not really experienced with business, you're going to fail at this a lot because what you think in your head is not necessarily what the market reacts. Okay, so the next part he goes into is marketing, right? How to attract customers and really give a unique selling proposition, a unique message to the market. And he talks about Dan Kennedy having a famous quote, how to sum up marketing. It's the number one sin. The number one sin of marketing is to be boring, okay? Think about it. What attracts your attention? What really makes you aware of what's going on? It's not boring, right? It's brands that are cutting edge. It's brands that are delivering a message that's emotionally powerful, right? He talks about being, receptivity, and he talks a lot about being remarkable, okay? Seth Godin's book, Purple Cow, great book, talking about you have to be remarkable. Do people want to talk about you? Do people want to look at your product and say that really either solved the problem or that was something that was amazing? And if you can't get that level of emotional response, it's gonna be tough in business, right? It's gonna be really, really tough, especially as a new entrant. There's a great lesson out of this book on the marketing section. But I would say the other thing I really learned out of this, there's a lot of just like basic marketing terms, call to action, you know, how much free, how powerful that word is in terms of marketing. But he just talks about things like framing a message, how to filter it, right? So framing has to do with, from a marketing perspective, what is it that you're going to put in the frame and really highlight, zone in on? But it also means what is outside the frame that you're not going to put any attention to, you know? And we see it all the time, especially like with news media and everything like that. You see a lot of framing in terms of a narrative, right? So we see the same event, but you're seeing it from 4 different frames, angles, and then the way that they describe it, they throw filters up, right? The reason why they do that is, he talks a lot about it, confirmation bias, right? We want a narrative, and we want things that confirm who we are to that narrative. Okay, so the next part, he's talking a lot about sales. And sales is the process of taking a prospect or someone with interest, they have desire to purchase, they have desire to own whatever it is you're selling. You gotta actually get that transaction. And a lot of times in sales, you know, I like to think of sales, especially in this book, he talks about four big things that you have to think about. And that is, a salesman's job is to, 1, get someone to buy. Very first thing. It's a huge, we have so many barriers that we throw up, reasons why we don't want to buy something, okay? Number 2, you want to increase average order value. Increase the amount of margin on each order that comes in. Then he talks about, okay, you also need frequency. Can you get that person to continually buy from you, right? Not just now, but future, lifetime value of a customer. And then really the 4th one, which is one of the more powerful marketing and sales concepts, which is the referral, word of mouth. How do you get that same customer to then be your own salesman and tell other people to buy your products, right? They're gonna acquire customers for you. And then he talks about being able to do this really through 2 main reasons. You're gonna do it through value-based selling, okay, which is your product or service. What are the key values of that? What problem does it solve for your prospect, okay? So if you can amplify the problem, the better, right? So let's say you're selling nails, right? Are you really selling nails? Well, a good salesman's gonna tell you no. You're selling the peace of mind of knowing that you got a project done on time and that you can go watch football or something because you saved all this time. That's something that a salesman's trying to do, right? That's the value of what they're bringing. But the second thing that you can do is education, right? And Josh in the book talks about, you know, the key for sales is not necessarily to sell people, you know, the most expensive equipment or anything like that, or to be the most innovative in terms of the actual products you have, but he says a lot of times, just teaching people the proper way to use common products to get some end result. A lot of times that alone. So Josh talks about upgrading the user, not necessarily the product, right? The products will come later, but if you can teach the user to be better. So for instance, he says teach photographers to be better at photography, not necessarily just to use better cameras, but like how to actually view the world from a photographer's lens. And if you upgrade them, they're gonna purchase whatever the heck you're selling, okay? Whatever the newest camera is, whatever the newest gear is, they're gonna trust you because you're the one that upgraded, right? You leveled them up. Okay, so the next part, chapter 4, has to do with value delivery, and the biggest things that I got out of this one realistically has to do with where are you selling things, so what are your value delivery channels, right? So easiest example from this is like a grocery store. If you're selling food, maybe you have an online storefront, maybe you have affiliates. Where are you disseminating the value? And that medium does matter, okay? If it's through affiliates, you got to coach them on the right language to use to ensure that expectations are being met. You know, if it's through a restaurant, once again, you got to coach them up on how do you use your product. And Guinness does this really good, actually. When I was in Dublin a few years ago, they actually say like there's a specific way for Guinness, and if it's done improperly, they tell them throw it out, okay, or we're not going to give you any more Guinness. Right? That's a good job of understanding value delivery. It's a channel, it's a bar, it's Guinness, your brand, right? That's your product. You got to coach up on how to deliver the value you want, okay? And then the other part I really liked was he talks about your reputation being about consistency and predictability, right? So think about McDonald's is one of the better, I think, brands and reputations. And it's not because they have the best burger. It's not because they have the most widest selection. It's not because there's anything that great about McDonald's. But when I think about McDonald's, they're predictable. I know I'm gonna get, I know what chicken nuggets that they're gonna give me, right? I know that they're gonna screw my order up probably 50% of the time, but we know what we're gonna get from them. It's predictable, okay? We can bank on it, right? When you think, hey, I want dinner, I know exactly what I'm getting from McDonald's. And then we talk about that consistency, right? They do it over and over and over again, right? That's why if you're a new entrant, really, really tough when you first come in, because what results do you have to prove to people? You don't, you have to pitch your problem. Okay, finally, part 5 has to do with finance. And the best thing that I liked about this part was that they do a very high level of like income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, some of the measurements in terms of KPIs or return on investments, your ROAs. That's all great. But realistically, if you're a guerrilla marketer, if you're someone who is a new time entrepreneur, you don't really deal a whole lot with the financials like that. You're not that complex. You pretty much have to just manage your cash, right? Especially with like ad spend and things like that. And really the 4 ways he talks about in the book to increase revenue is number 1, okay, he says, you gotta get new customers. Now, it's been estimated that getting repeat customers costs you about 1/10 the amount as getting a new customer. This is why a lot of newer brands really struggle in the beginning part, because just acquiring customers costs so much money. And especially if you think about advertising and all that, like you need a cheaper way. That's what I love about guerrilla marketing. That's what you look at. You look at low to no cost ways to attract and get customers. But you can get new customers, which is really hard and really difficult. Number 2, once again, you have to increase the amount that they purchase from you. And you know, there's software like ClickFunnels and everything that's gonna help you with that from a financial perspective. It's gonna help you and your company and your brand increase that average order value, right? Upsells, cross sells, order bumps, you know, everything like that. One centralized place to manage it. Number 3, what I liked about the book is that he then talks about frequency. You gotta keep coming. That's what Netflix does, right? The SaaS model, month by month. Okay, month by month, you keep getting that cash flow coming in. That's frequency, okay? And frequency is very, very important, okay? If you can't get people to repeat and come back, it's gonna be very hard to be profitable. And then of course the 4th method is jack up the prices, right? If you're noticing that you can deliver a lot of value through your marketing efforts, start raising your prices, see how the market reacts to it. You know, sometimes you'd be surprised, you know, you do your consulting services, you charge $50 an hour, and you're just getting client after client after client, and charge $100, all of a sudden you can do twice, you know, the least amount of work and get the same amount of money, right? Increase your prices. All right, everyone, so that was part 1 of the Personal MBA. Go ahead and check out part 2, where we're gonna be going over the business psychology of business and how you can treat either your mind or understand your prospect and customers' minds to generate more sales, more leads, all that funness. So with that, I'm Jason Catalano, call sign Wildcat. Check it out.